Hello everyone, today we are going to learn about the basics of Xcode along with learning the differences between var and let. For most of this course, in the beginning, we are going to use the playground. So Xcode has two kind of places that you can use to code. There's a playground and there is Xcode projects. So for the playground, it is really meant for you to kind of test around and kind of play around with code, while Xcode project is basically where you create an app. As you can see in the screen right now, it gives you a brief explanation where you get to basically with the playground, you could explore some new ideas, while for a project, you're actually building the app for whether it be iPhone, iPads, Mac, Apple Watch, or Apple TV. So we're going to start off with starting a playground, and here we are. So I am running Xcode 11.3 as of this time of this recording this course. I'll probably update this as time goes. So what we're going to do really right now is we're going to start off with a blank playground. You could always do single view. Basically, you could have a single view application in the playground. But because we're learning the basics of everything right now, we're going to start with just learning just the basics right now. We're going to put this somewhere. So just make sure you name your course as well. So for me, I'm going to just name this var versus let. All right, so once we've created it, here we are. We have a basic Xcode project here. So to get started, before we even go starting with Var and Let, this is basically import. So import is basically where you import different libraries. With code, you can always put in a different library and kind of different frameworks that will help you out with figuring out what to basically be able to use. When you import UIKit, you can use certain functions and classes inside of that library. Let's cancel that. You don't want this or not. Okay, so to get started, we're just going to remove everything. You just remove everything here, backspace. So the difference between let and var is that with a let variable, you are allowed to change. You're not allowed to change anything in that variable. So if you set that value, you cannot change it. So let's say let a variable equal to 10. If I say a variable equal to 12, this should not work. So as you can see here, it gives you an error. It says that cannot assign to value a variable is a let constant, versus var b variable. If I set that to 12, then here I say b variable equals to 14, and then I print b variable. And we're going to let that run here. When we press the play button, it'll run through everything, and you should see some things here in the console log. So here we go. A variable is 10, B variable is 12, now B variable becomes 14, and right here, when we print B variable, this is what we get as a string. So when we do print statements, it actually prints it out as a string. So as you can see right here, this is our print. We could also change more here. So we could do B variable equals to 50 now. And we can tell it to print b variable again. And if we run it this time, as you can see, first we print 14, now it becomes 15. And we're trying to print a variable here, and just so that we know where we are from, we'll put some stars in here, just so we have an idea what's going on. Press play. Boom, so we know that this is b variable, this is a variable. And if I try to set a variable equal to 123, it's not going to run. It's going to give us that message, and right here it tells you to change to a var for that to happen. So that's really the basics of a let and var kind of variable. Essentially, let is basically once you set it, you can't change it, while vars are you can change it, it's mutable. So we're going to just remove this here. While we're at it, we're going to also be learning optionals here. I know that this is a var and let. The optionals is kind of something that we're going to kind of teach you along the side. So I'm going to teach you this right now as we are doing the let and vars here. So to start, we're going to keep our variables here. Let a variable and that, and b variables. So there's different types in types of variables. There's int, there are doubles, there are float, There is also strings, character. So there's different types is basically what I'm trying to say, and there's also kind of custom types and custom objects, but that's a different type of course. This is a beginner's course, so we're just gonna stick to that. Okay, so to get started, we're gonna have var a variable of type int. So right here we have a variable that's changeable, and it's telling it to start off as nil because we don't know what the value is. The benefit of doing a variable and giving an optional sometimes is that there are times where you may or may not have the value at hand. There's something called asynchronous code or asynchronous functions where basically we try to grab something. For example, if you were trying to grab data from an API or some sort of networking device, think of it as you being the person who's trying to fill out a form and you don't have the information in the form yet. So at that point in time, a variable or the name of that person is emptied or nil. So that's what is the point of it, an optional. And when doing so, when you do print a variable like this, it should print out nil. But when doing something like this, it's better to do it safely because it may crash because it's nil. Printing is fine, but if you try to access it, it's going to be a problem. Let's just say if you want to say, you want to set it and it doesn't exist yet, it's going to cause some, it's going to break basically if you want to try to grab that value, but if you're printing it, it's perfectly fine. So one way to make sure that there is a variable is to do a force cast. So force unwrapping, sorry. What this means is that you're forcing it to unwrap, and only reason why you should do this is if you know for a fact that at this point in time that you're accessing this variable, that a value actually exists. If a value does not exist in this point in time, the app will crash. Obviously here it will not because it is nil and we're only printing it. But as you can see, fatal error unexpectedly found nil while trying to wrap an optional value. Boom. So to fix this issue, the one way to do it is to check if it's empty. If a variable does not equal to nil, that means that it is not nil and there is a value. We want to print a variable and we're going to force it. Now, if we run it this time, we should not run into an issue at all because a variable has never been nil, right? And to make sure that this whole thing actually ran, we're going to print finished program. Run it, and we should only get finished program. Now, if we, for example, did set a variable here and we set it to 10, and we run it this time, we should get both 10 and a finished program. So this is basically the simplicity of using optionals. It's essentially allowing us to have the ability to make a variable empty at the beginning of time. May seem a bit complicated at this point in time, but as you get into more advanced apps where value does not exist immediately, using options is really useful for the readability of code and just being able to understand code much more. Thank you for watching this Var versus Let video and the bonus of learning a little bit of optionals. In the next course, we're going to learn a little bit about functions